on, but then you pick a thing or two that could help you in the course of today. All right, so we start straight away. There are a lot of fundamental events we're looking up to today. And firstly, we have the German prelim CPI coming from the Eurozone all day. So no specific time, it's just going to be an all-day event. So we need to trade the euro with a lot of caution because of this event, since no specific time has been given. Now, the other ones that will come up today. Good morning, Madam Monaji. By 2:45 p.m., there'll be Bank of Canada monetary policy report, Bank of Canada restatement, overnight rate. By 3:30, there will be Bank of Canada press conference. So today is for the Canadian dollar. We expect a lot of volatility on the Canadian dollar, and I'm going to show you the specific instruments I'm looking at, on the card for this. Setup is quite a good one. Please mute your devices as you're joining this class so that we don't have interference. All right, so I'll switch over to the chart now. We're going to be looking at the Canadian dollar and other technical setup that are spotted for the day. Now, in the global space, we don't have any fundamental uh, news as at the moment, but then if we see any news that could shake or move the market, we'll definitely let you know in the course of the day. So I'll look at you can see on the screen, I have my CAD CHF. Now, this is the instrument I'm looking out for to trade for the CAD report by 2:45 p.m. this afternoon. I'm looking closely at the CAD CHF. Good morning, Galaxy A2. I would suggest you put your real name so that we can know who you really are, but all the same, good morning and you're welcome on board. Now, for the CAD CHF, price has been in an overall downtrend, right from the weekly time frame. The trend is overall bearish. You can see we have a bearish trend line, moving downwards there. And the candle that closed yesterday closed as a rejection candle. Same, that's on the daily time frame. So the weekly time frame gave us an overall downtrend. Daily time frame, we have a rejection candle, though a bullish one, but notwithstanding, it could still lead to a reversal. Technically, we're looking for a reversal, and the final confirmation to that reversal is the fact that we have a resistance zone. So this point becomes our confluence where we have our trend line, our resistance, and our rejection candle all meeting. So technically, we are bearish on the CAD CHF. So later today by 2:45 p.m. rather, if the data released from Canada comes out bad for the Canadian dollar, we're going to be expecting a crash on the CAD CHF. And as a final confirmation, I'm also seeing the formation of a head and shoulder pattern on the 1 hour time frame. At least this one sums it all up. So we are very bearish on the CAD CHF. Now we're going to look at selling the CAD CHF. Like I said, if the data comes out bad for the Canadian dollar, or better still, if price breaks out below the neckline, even before the release of the news, you can go ahead and trigger a sell on the CAD CHF. And profit potential on this, it may extend beyond the day trading session, but then let's just see the profit potential on this. Price could drop to the tune of about 12 pips, let's say 11 pips to Fibonacci 38.2, as much as 50 pips to Fibonacci 50, and as much as 40 pips. Sorry, did I say 50 there? As much as 25, 26 pips, let's say 25 pips to Fibonacci 50, then as much as 40 pips to Fibonacci 61.8, and as much as about 60 pips to Fibonacci 17.6. So between 12 pips and 60 pips is very possible on this instrument. Good morning, Mr. Matthew. You're welcome on board. So we're bearish on the CAD CHF for the news, for this news from Canada this afternoon. Let me confirm again. That's the rate statements news, from Canada. Now, peradventure you miss the timing when the news will be released, there's nothing to worry about. All you need is just a new candle below this, neckline region, and you can still trigger a sell. So whether you take the trade immediately after the news is released or afterwards, what counts is just look for a complete new candle below this region and you can still trigger a sell. So we have a very high probability setup right from the weekly to the daily to the 1 hour time frame. We are very bearish on the CAD CHF. So that's my outlook for the news this afternoon, and that's the instrument I'm looking at. All right, yesterday I gave an analysis on BTC USD, and I need to do a follow-up to that analysis. From last week, if you followed my analysis on BTC USD, I said that price hit a previous support turn resistance on the weekly time frame, and as such, I said I was bearish on the BTC. So this is a support zone, support turn resistance. I said it technically that I hold a bearish outlook on the BTC USD. And earlier in the week, on Monday, I said I saw what looks a lot like possibly a head and shoulder, a triple top here, which could drive price downwards. Though there is a rising wedge also to it. So we have a rising wedge pattern, which adds further confirmation. All right. So price broke out and went bearish. From my yesterday analysis, I said we expect, some bearish movement. That already happened, but then we can see a retracement. Now, there's my new angle to it. I'm seeing, I actually said yesterday that we should expect, some retracement up. If you join the analysis, you can testify to that. You can go and watch the video. So that retracement has happened. I believe it's preparing the ground for a further breakout downwards. So if you missed any of the movement yesterday, there's no need to worry about. We are expecting a breakout below this recent low, and that will give us a bigger drop on the BTC USD. So I still maintain my bearish outlook on BTC USD, but I'll just wait for price to break below that recent support region for a further bearish breakout on the BTC USD. So all these target levels I gave yesterday, they are still very, very valid. The Fibonacci levels, they are still very valid. You can just plot it like I've done and mark each of those regions, for profit taking level. Now, please take note that this is completely a swing trade, and as such, it can span beyond a day and even possibly a week. But all the same, the direction is bearish. So we're very bearish on the BTC USD. Next, I'll look at is an update on Euro NZD and NZD JPY. Now, at the beginning of the week, I gave my outlook on the NZDJPY also, and I backed it up with a fundamental report from investinglive.com that the Bank of Japan is going hawkish on the Japanese yen. And I said if the Japanese yen is going hawkish, then the pairs that contain the yen, they will really be going bearish. And I remember telling us that I expected the NZDJPY to go bearish. At the beginning of the week, price was just around this region, and I predicted that price will go up to complete the second head and shoulder pattern here from where we are expecting a breakout downwards. Now that is happening just exactly as I forecasted. I like to use the word forecast. I prefer the word forecast to predicting. We are doing analysis here. All right, so price seems to have broken out below the lower trend line. I'll wait for my MACD. RSI is below 50, that's 42. MACD is about to cross below zero. I want to see my MACD cross below so that we know, below zero rather, so that we know we already have a final crossover. Then we can see the eventual fall in the NZD-JPY. Again, this is a swing setup, so it may span days and possibly more than days, maybe a couple of days to a week. It all depends on the market condition. But overall, the Bank of Japan has been hawkish. Hawkish is the word used for bullish. If you're talking about fundamental analysis, they use the word hawkish instead of the word bullish, but they mean exactly the same thing. So if the Bank of Japan is hawkish on the Japanese yen, and the Japanese yen is a quote currency for NZD-JPY, that means we should expect a crash to the bearish direction on the NZD-JPY. So we're getting set for a major bearish move on the NZD-JPY, and price could drop to the tune of between 75 pips to as much as about 223 pips in the coming days. So watch out for that. So what I'm saying in essence is that by the next 4-hour candle, which is 10 a.m., if the MACD crosses below zero, that will be a final confirmation of a bearish movement. But then most importantly, we still need to exercise on patience because there's news from Canada by 2 p.m. We need to wait for all those news, to be over before we trigger a sell. But overall, I maintain my bearish outlook on the NZD-JPY. And if you're not trading the NZD or you missed it, there's nothing to worry about. There's a corresponding trade on the Euro NZD that contains the NZD likewise. And I remember telling us at the beginning of the week that I was seeing the formation of a double bottom pattern on this particular instrument. So while the NZD is going bearish, the Euro NZD is on the bullish run. All right. This is a view on this one. From the weekly time frame, we have an overall bullish trend. Now we don't trade against the trend, we ride the trend. There are reversal trades too, and I do show how we do that. All right, so we have an overall bullish trend, and the candle that closed last week closed as a rejection candle on the weekly time frame. So technically, I said it from Monday that I'm very bullish on the Euro NZD, and going straight to 4 hour, I said it also that I was seeing the possible formation of a double bottom pattern, and that has formed. Now, price is exactly at the neckline region. Again, I'm not suggesting taking these two trades together. That's NZD, JPY, and the Euro NZD. You can only take one out of the two of them. Don't trade, but don't buy Euro NZD and sell NZD JPY. Please don't do that. Just trade one out of the two. If you miss one, then take the other. That's how it's done. All right, so for the Euro NZD, price is exactly at the neckline region. We need a new full candle above this region to trigger a buy on the Euro NZD. RSI is already above 50. MACD is also about to cross above zero, just like the opposite of what we saw on the NZD JPY. So I want to wait for a new candle to form above this region for me to know to just act as a confirmation to trigger a buy. But then we are very, very bullish on this instrument, very bullish on the Euro NZD, and price is expected to target between 101 to 190 pips. Again, it's a swing setup, so please treat it as such. But the intraday session analysis I gave is actually for the CAT CHF. That one is purely intraday. So if you're an intraday trader, CAT CHF is your best bet for today. But then we need to wait for the release of the data from Canada in the afternoon. Or if it triggers before the release of the data, you're still good to go. All right, so I've given us updates on BTC USD, NZD JPY, Euro NZD, and I've given my outlook on the CAT CHF, especially for the upcoming news. Now, finally, I'll look at gold, then I'll take requests. Now, there is no strong fundamentals on regards global events on gold, but then gold currently is trading at a support level on the 4 hour time frame. Now, this region is equally a range zone because we're not seeing much activity in the last, like in the last 24 hours. We're not seeing any serious activity on gold. But technically, because we have a support zone, we're expecting possible reversal in price. Just a second. Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to get some possible confluence, and I think I have it. Overall trend technically is a bullish one on gold overall on the daily time frame, and price has made a series of higher lows, and price retraced back. I think I gave this on Monday also that I'm expecting price to drop to touch the trend line before the next wave of bullish movement. All right, I think price is back to that level, though not touching it exactly, but very, very close. Very, very close. We might see a little drop on gold, possibly. It's a 50-50. It may not. Price may drop a little before, finding its way. But even if it does not drop a little, it's within that zone where we're expecting a move to the upside because of this other support. So whether it touches it or not, the trend is still overall bullish. So we should be expecting a reversal to the upside on gold. So let's go down to like 15 minutes time frame and look out for possible entries if we can find. Well, with the current information, I'm not seeing any clarity as regards entry, but let's just watch out in the course of the day. Maybe price will drop lower, then we can look at a reversal trade if that will happen in the course of today. So let's just watch closely. But then I'm bullish. I'm bullish, but for now, I'm not seeing any potential for entry until we can see some slight drop. Then we can wait for a breakout to the upside. And even in trading the upside, we need to still exercise a little caution. There's a minor resistance here that price still needs to break out above. So in essence, this may end up giving us something that's close to like a double bottom pattern, hopefully. But then even if it doesn't give a double bottom pattern, I expect price to drop a little, then break out to the upside. So I still maintain a bullish outlook on gold. If it happens like I've given the analysis now, well, this region can be a first profit taking level. Then you wait for it to break out above this region before you continue buying further. So you may open to trades. First profit taking level will target this recent high, which is the recent resistance, and a break above it will see price drive higher. But overall, I'm very bullish on gold today. All right, that'll be all from my analysis this morning. I'll give a little recap, then I'll attend to the requests I'm seeing. All right, so I've given my outlook on CAD CHF, and that's actually my prime analysis for today. I'm very bearish on the CAD CHF on 1 hour, and we're expecting a volatile news from Canada this afternoon. It's all about the interest rate. So we're expecting the data to come out bad for the Canadian dollar, then that will trigger our bearish analysis on the CAD CHF. It's purely intraday, you know, though the overall, if you want to stay longer, depending on your trading hello, okay. So I don't know. It's like I was muted and I didn't get any feedback. Okay, what did you hear me say last, please? Are we there?
Yes, we are very much here. Good morning, sir.
Good
What
morning.
it is maybe not we didn't actually get or we forgot it.
Okay, what
Forgot
did
what
you
you're
hear me
saying.
say last? Okay, no, notwithstanding, I'll just give you a little recap on the
Mm-hmm.
major things I've
Mm-hmm.
said. All right.
He's
So
on that on he's on good. Yeah,
on gold.
that's okay.
Oh,
You are recapping. You are recapping. Yes, you are recapping.
all right, all
Maybe
right.
I think you are on CHF cards.
CAT CHF. Okay, let me just quickly do a little recap on that for those who just joined us. So for those who just joined us, I said I'm bearish on the CAT CHF, and these are my reasons. Now, when you analyze the market, you must be able to give valid reasons why you believe an instrument will go in a certain direction. And I'm giving my valid reasons. Firstly, on the daily time frame, also on the weekly, but then let me just talk about daily now. On the daily time frame, we can see that price is in an overall bearish direction for the CAD CHF. We have an overall, pardon that drawing. All right, so we have an overall bearish direction. Price makes a series of lower high, and the third lower high here. We have a resistance, and we also have a rejection candle. Now, these are valid reasons why all of them are pointing to one direction, and that is downwards. So this region is our confluence where the trend line, the resistance, and rejection candle all meet. So technically, we have a bearish outlook on the CAD CHF on the daily time frame. Now flipping to 1 hour, we have a rising wedge pattern and a head and shoulder that is still forming. Head and shoulder pattern is a bearish pattern, it's a reversal pattern. So if the news comes out bad for the Canadian dollar, then we're going to see a crash on the CAD CHF. Now the other side is what if it comes out good? Still not a problem. If it comes out good, Price will return to this confluence zone, and from there we'll still expect it to break out downwards. So if the data comes out good, I will advise you just hold on, exercise patience, and wait for price to still break out downwards. Then you can trigger a sell. So overall, we are bearish no matter the outcome. Only that if it comes out bad, it helps us to make up our mind faster. But if it comes out good for the Canadian dollar, just wait, price will go up. Now, don't say I want to quickly take a buy, then take a sell. Just don't bother yourself with all those kind of trades. Wait, it's only completing the second shoulder by going up. Then we still expect a breakout to the downside. So we're very bearish on the CAD CHF. All right, I'll take the request I'm seeing on the screen now. Someone is asking me to check, Trust is asking me to check USD CHF, and Kenny is asking me to check GBP USD. So I'll do that quickly as I begin to round up. USD CHF. Now, let's take a look at the dollar index first. Now, I said something about the dollar index yesterday, even right from Monday. Monday, I said it that earlier on, price hit a resistance, sorry, support on resistance. We saw some slight bearish movement. Then on Monday, we started the week with price hitting this upward moving trend line, higher low, rejection candle, higher low. I said we are going back again to the upside, but taking note that there is a resistance. All right. So yesterday, price hit the resistance, though we're still seeing some slight bullish movement, but that should be a temporary movement. So let's go to USD CHF. All right. So for USD CHF, I said it also on Monday that I was seeing the formation. We are overall bullish. Overall, the outlook is bullish. We have an uptrend with an inverse head and shoulder. That should trigger us into a long-term bullish breakout. But then we can't neglect the fact that there is a resistance on the dollar index. Except if price breaks above this region, we need to trade the dollar with caution. Otherwise, we should be looking actually at a reversal. So let's go back to the USD CHF. So for the USD CHF also, even though we can see an inverse head and shoulder, if we do our Fibonacci there on 4 hour, we clearly see that price hit this region yesterday where I said we should be careful. That's Fibonacci 50. Now, Fibonacci 50 and 61.8 are very critical profit taking levels because at those levels, price may either experience a retracement or a reversal. One of the two happens at that level. So even though we have an inverse head and shoulder, we still need to trade with caution. And price hit Fibonacci 50 yesterday, formed a tweezer top. Now, a tweezer top is a bearish pattern. Technically, we may be looking for a sell. But you know why I can't give a final outlook on the dollar now is because there's going to be FOMC later tonight. Yeah, let me just remind us of that. Let's go back to Forex Factory. Though it comes up 7 p.m. Many times people don't really trade it, but it's a major news. It talks about interest rate decision in the US. So there's federal fund rate, FOMC statement, federal FOMC market, FOMC press conference by 7 p.m. and 7:30. Now, this is one of the major deciders of the dollar. It decides the next thing that will happen. It's just as strong as the NFP, or let me say, the next stronger news after NFP is actually the FOMC. It talks about the interest rate. So it's a decision by the central bank. But US doesn't call their own central bank. They don't call the central bank. They call it the Federal Reserve. So we're at a critical point for the dollar. I would advise to trade the dollar with caution today. If you can stay out of any dollar trade today, the better. Because usually on FOMC days like this, the dollar may just drag. It may just drag in the market. We may not see serious movement. It may range. But if I was to look at this from a pure technical perspective with a Fibonacci 50, which is acting as a strong resistance, a tweezer top, technically I will be looking at a possible bearish movement on the USD CHF. Technically, from a pure technical angle, I will be looking at a bearish movement on the USD CHF. Okay, this is even another dimension to it. There's a descending trend line here, and it's still touching that. It's still touching that Fibonacci 50 and that tweezer top angle there. So overall, I want to maintain a possible bearish movement on the USD CHF, except the FOMC comes out otherwise. Except that, except the FOMC comes out otherwise. And for GBP USD, now if the dollar will go bearish, definitely the GBP USD will go bullish. Even though looking at it presently, okay, let me still filter further. All right, looking at it from the 4-hour angle, to be honest, all these are subjective until FOMC is released, but these are just pure technical outlook that I'm giving. Now for GBP USD, we have overall an uptrend here, and price may drop, possibly to touch the trend line. Oh, let me go down to 1 hour. All right, either it does or not. We have I won't be taking another question after this because my battery is running out fast. All right, so there's a minor support here. So technically, I'll be looking for an upside movement on the GBP USD, and it's in line with the fact that we're bearish on the USD. But like I said, all these are subjective. FOMC still will determine what happens to the dollar. So I will advise, if you are not on a trade on the dollar, just stay out of the dollar today. Make the CAD CHF your focus. It's purely intraday, and it's a high probability setup. All right, that'll be all from the analysis this morning. I'll try and post the link so that I can watch the recorded version. Take care and enjoy the day. Bye bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, man.